Hi, my name is Jim Hilborn,
And I'm Tom Dinas.
and we
Oh, the
small business doctors.
And I've been taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. I've been taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business and working overtime.
So tonight we are going to talk about
Oh, I got a registered letter in the mail.
Ah.
Should I open that?
exactly.
If I don't go down there and pick it up, will it go away?
Will it go away? Yes. We are going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about what to do when you are threatened with being sued, litigation, or when somebody shows up at your doorstep and hands you some legal papers, or like Tom just said, when you get that certified letter in the mail, and what do you do? So,
Besides panic.
besides panic.
Yeah,
And
take
that's-
positive action. Don't.
That's right. That's right. So well, I guess the number one thing, Tom, is the worst thing you can do is not to do anything.
Right.
So
The ostrich approach to problem solving, I call
yeah,
it.
exactly. And the law thinks that if you don't show up and do something, then the other side's right. So anyway, let's see. Where do we want to start? We want to talk.
Well,
about
you
getting
know,
sued or-
actually, part of the problem with lawsuits, and when you get that, the process server or the registered letter, you're already a little bit behind the curve as far as.
You probably
being-
are.
Yeah, I mean, you need to do things on a regular basis to keep your business, keep your records up, and do things contemporaneously.
That's
that
right.
will help you avoid the lawsuit issue.
That's right. And most of what there are numerous things.
Numerous.
Numerous things.
Yeah,
Numerous
that's
things you can do.
Louisiana, from what I gather
That's
from
right.
them.
Yeah, back to my roots. But there are a lot of things you can do. We'll go there. To help yourself, and Tom's right, keeping those records up to speed where you don't have to go back and bring them up to date. So just get in the habit of keeping your books up in regular order. People are going to, in small business, are going to be sued primarily over contracts, either with your suppliers or with the people you're selling to, if you're in that middle of the chain, or you might be sued by, your employee or employees because of what they perceive to be violations of labor laws of here and there. Easy to do. Easy. You may think you're perfect, but they probably don't think so.
Yeah.
And let's see, the other common type of, you may have contractual difficulties with your landlord if you're in any kind of, if you're renting any kind of space.
Or somebody gets hurt on your property, or
Exactly, somebody gets hurt on your property, an employee gets hurt. So, but let's just talk about just a little bit about generally, we're going to keep our records up. We preach this every time.
Every time,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm not
that's-
supposed to say preach. We have lectured and advised.
harped and nagged
and nagged and, yeah,
and screamed and yelled.
screamed and yelled about
Yeah.
keeping your records up to date, because the first thing that your lawyer is going to want to see, and probably be your insurance lawyer, we hope, is going to want to see is all the records that are going to reflect upon the actual event that's being complained about. So you want to have those things in good order, and the more prepared you are for that, the more you'll be prepared for anything, whether it's litigation or just making business decisions.
Right.
So first of all, we'll start with that certified letter. Most of the time, and most attorneys will send you not always, don't always have to, don't always do that, depends on the time limitations, but usually they'll send you a letter saying, pay up or die. Kind of the shot across the bow, the pirate's demand.
We'll board you.
You did, you did this and you did that, and you're an evil person, and we need all your money. And that's the short form. And so, you're going to get that maybe a certified letter. Law may require that a certain demand be made for a certain period, certain amount of notice. Law may require that it be by certified mail or.
See a lot of that in the construction trades.
Absolutely. A lot of that in the construction trades. And you get that letter, so we always pick up the letter. I can't say that it's true for every of each of the 50 states, but generally speaking, the obligation is to send it by certified mail. Nobody cares if anybody ever picks it up.
Yeah.
It's the plaintiff that's the guy suing you, has the obligation to send it by certified mail.
Right. I see that a lot in the IRS. Well, when they really get down to the serious part of the collection process, the certified letter comes.
Right.
You know, when you get that certified letter, you better open it and you better find out how bad the demon is,
Right.
and you better get some help immediately because they're about ready to pull the trigger on some things,
That's right.
which is file liens against you, and all of a sudden you start going to your bank account and they've taken money out of there without you knowing it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah, and so you can foresaw some of that, or if you need to get legal counsel, then that's when you start the process.
all right.
It's when you find out.
So
that
now,
someone's
a general business type problem, what type of attorney would you go to? What would you think, Jim?
Well, I think you ought to go to someone who is a business thinks of themselves as a business lawyer, and who engages in litigation. Some business lawyers will say, "I don't do litigation."
They just
they
do the
will-
corporate minutes and
Right, that sort of
leases
thing.
and those sort of things. Yeah.
But they will probably have a good feel for who does and who is business savvy. And
So it's always the referral process always works really well for
Exactly.
finding the professional, as it is, within my profession too. Certain
exactly.
people do trusts in the states. I shy away from them, so I would send them someplace else for the
Yeah.
most part.
And so the kind of lawsuits that we envision business people being in are going to be different than personal injuries. It's going to be, you're the kind of attorney you want is going to be somebody obviously well versed in that business field, or if it may be an employer thing, there's specialties there too. And they're going to understand. They need to understand your business.
What about partners that have a falling out? That's one thing that I see quite often in
Oh,
the
good.
tax business.
Excellent question. Yeah. Then so we're dividing a business up. That's a common suit as well. We're dividing. Most partnership agreements. Oh, did they have a partnership agreement? Maybe not, but we didn't get that one.
They were told to get one.
Well,
yeah.
if you had actually,
They went online and they got the fill in the blank form.
we started looking at it, and we didn't agree on everything, so we decided to put it off. Yeah.
If you can't agree at that stage of the game, break up then before you get too serious about it because nothing's going to work.
That's right. It's kind of like a prenuptial agreement. If you can't, I mean, these are hard questions, and you.
We got a problem.
Yeah, you probably want to talk about it, but. But a partnership agreement, if you have one, is going to lead you out of a partnership because that's an important part of each one of them is how to get out,
Right.
and without destroying the business.
And in my vast background, I've only seen one or two partnerships, more than one owner make it for any prolonged period of time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Of course. I mean that makes sense. Times change. People change.
Well, we deal with self-employed people, and the reason you're self-employed is you're independent and you don't take direction
Does not
very
play well with others.
Does not
Yeah,
play
that's-
well with others, and then you're going to get another guy who's similar in scope and mental mindset. It's like the odds aren't good.
So, and interesting enough, but one of the great questions about that is that so you have this business lawyer that you're seeing because we've advised everyone to establish that kind of management team that would be the bigger corporations have management teams which include attorneys and accountants and tax experts and that sort of thing. Now if you're small, you're not going to be able to afford those guys full time, but you're going to have those people you see. You're going to have an attorney, you're going to have a tax consultant, but these folks that are advising you are advising the business, depending on what kind of business entity it is. If you're probably an LLC or a corporation, if you've been, following our advice and, listening to thinking about a business entity, going through that decision-making process, you're probably not a sole proprietor. You're probably not a partnership. You're probably or some liability defending type of entity where the business stands alone.
Right.
So that lawyer, say I'm representing a corporation, and the two shareholders come and say I get the call, on one line that it's Joe and he's really mad at Steve and and he's breaking it up and what he has to do, and Steve's on the other line ringing, I can't represent either one of them.
So you have to back off completely.
I can represent the corporation, but I can't represent either one of them in a suit against the other because it's a conflict. Mm-hmm. Because I've been I can't take one side of the other. So I'm happy to refer both of them out to other attorneys and let them go at it. But that's the main thing. Usually you're going to not be able to use your normal attorney for these kinds of suits. Usually. And there's exceptions to everything, but usually there's going to be a conflict.
Right.
So
Well,
the
that
attorney,
makes a lot of
And the
sense.
attorney will identify that. You don't have to identify that. You
Right.
can go to him and say, "Hey, I want you to sue Steve," and he's probably going to say, "Gee, I can't." So
So you're getting into this problem, and so you start analyzing how big the problem is.
Right.
And so you kind of put a value on it, or like a 1 to 10 type thing, as far how deep in doo-doo you are at this point in time.
yeah, exactly. You look at the claim, and then you start getting some. And let's go back. So now we've gotten the demand letter, so we start lawyering up. I think, yeah. But assume you just get served some papers. That's always fun. So some guy comes to your door and leaves a packet with your receptionist.
I thought they had to give it to you directly.
No, they don't.
Really?
Yeah. There's different ways to serve people. They'll give it to you directly if they can, but there's what's called office service or substitute service or service by mail. If they can't do it any other way, then, but what they do is they give it to your receptionist or the person who appears to be in charge of the office, and then they have mail. There's different rules in different states, but then they can generally mail a copy to you in the mail addressed to you, and and it's any method generally recognized that's very likely to get to you.
Oh, okay. So that's
So,
kind of
because people try to avoid service.
like
so-
Miracle on 34th Street when the post office brings in the mail.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Tom.
An official
Designate.
governmental agency.
A decision made by the government that Santa is a real person. Yeah.
There we go.
So anyway, you got this packet of papers, and it says on top is what's called usually a summons, which is an archaic term for a piece of paper saying, "Gee, you've been sued. You got 30 days to do something about it," or the person who's suing you is going to get whatever they want by default.
But they still have to go into court during that time frame, that 30 days, and present their side of the case, even though you're not there.
Wrong.
Or wrong.
Not necessarily. No, if you don't show up and you don't file an answer or an appearance of some kind, and those things are generally by paper. In fact, I would say they're always by paper. And and some states require a filing fee, and some don't, and all states require them to be in some sort of order, be it typed or double spaced or in numbered paper or that sort of thing. It's stuff that attorneys do. And you have to file that answer.
So-
what we generally call an answer or some kind of response. It can be a motion, lots of different things. But an appearance, an initial appearance, generally has to be made within a specified time period, or by agreement of the parties can be delayed for a long time. But it has to be by agreement of the parties.
So that first response is extremely important.
It's extremely important.
Because you could blow even if you're innocent or have a good defense, if you don't meet that time frame, all is lost.
Maybe, maybe not. Not all is lost, but it is so important to attack these things in a positive manner and to grapple with them and go ahead and make that appearance. Get your attorney up in speed, and he's going to want you to. And at the point you've been threatened, or at the point, or not necessarily threatened, but advised that if you don't make good to their demands, then they're going to sue you, or the time you sue you, you're also going to start getting into litigation mode. You're going to make sure that your business records, again, or everything has been filed correctly. Can't change things. I mean, you can't destroy documents. You can't do anything like that, but you want to make sure your documents are going to be accessible to you and your team. And if it requires a financial analysis, you're going to have your books that are going to have to be maybe brought current to certain areas so you can analyze them. And go
maybe set up an exit strategy just in case.
I think so. Yeah. If the lawsuit, if you walk into your attorney's office and walk out going, "Oh my God," he says they're right, and he says, or we really have breached this contract, and it's going to cost us, and if they win, then it's going to cost us everything, then your strategy may be at that point, oh, we're going to delay, and we're going to, maximize make sure that we're managing an exit from this business in an appropriate way.
Yeah, and now that one really needs to be covered by your attorney because
Yes,
you can
absolutely.
do some really stupid things during that period of time.
Oh, yeah.
Because you'll hear all these rumors about, oh, all you do is take all the assets out and just move them over here and hide them at your Aunt Frida's place and put them in the barn, and
Right.
then you just start up the next day type thing.
Yeah.
So,
But I don't want to give the impression that all is lost here. Most types of litigation will be covered by some form of insurance. Most losses
Right.
are foreseeable. Most things can be covered by insurance.
right.
So, in other words, if you
And your insurance agent is one of your best friends in this whole
Absolutely. He's
process.
part of
Or
the team.
actually, before this, it's one area that people tend to want to skimp in. And they go, "Oh, I'm insurance poor," but there's a reason why them premiums may be expensive because it reflects the amount of litigation that goes on within that particular problem area.
Sure. There's no problem with, and it makes all the sense in the world to go out there and let insurance companies compete with each other for your business. But if you're seeing a routinely high premiums for a certain activity, then that means there's a lot of litigation involved in that, a lot of payouts.
Right.
It's not, I mean,
Yeah, I remember having some construction clients, then they had different type one, they had a roofing operation and a framing operation.
Right.
We separated it. And then we had to bring them all back in together because the cost of the insurance and bonding got to be so high for each unit that we couldn't afford to do it that way. So we brought it
Exactly.
back in. So a lot of the reasons and cost effectiveness of having separate operations like that went away because of the insurance issues.
sure. So you've got insurance, and you need to, if you don't have insurance, that's one thing. If you do have insurance, then you're going to want to immediately get your claims representative a copy of that summons and a copy of that complaint, and you're going to want to immediately, you're not going to talk to the other side until you do that, until you get, because you owe your insurance company a duty to cooperate fully and to let them handle your case if they're going to defend you. And so they are going to be in charge.
Now, you said something to me one time about when we were talking about insurance limits and what to get. And you told me that you want to have enough insurance that it will make it worthwhile for the other side not to want to litigate.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's something we all really need to keep in mind, is that's one of the reasons for insurance.
That's right.
Is to keep it going. They'll look at it and say, well, we'll get this amount. Definitely, we could get more if we go in, but we could get less.
That's right.
And so,
That's right.
and the cost of litigation being so high.
The cost of everybody, any time that a lawsuit is settled, it is settled because, and well, I guess maybe there's other reasons. There are emotional reasons. I always downplay those. It happens.
Yeah.
But you develop a mathematical formula of types, and you're saying, if everything went perfectly and I was in a jury trial or a judge trial or whatever, and if they believed everything that every one of my clients said and believed every element of which, already we're seeing smirks. But if everything went our way, and then our evidence was absolutely believable and unrebutted, here's what we would get. And then you say, gosh, if they didn't believe our witnesses, and we couldn't prove all of our damages, where would we be? And then here's where the kind of Mickey Mouse say, gee, if I tried this case 100 times, how many times would I get that perfect result? How many times would the defendants get the result and I'd get nothing? And then where would that mountain be? Life is a sine wave. Where would that little hump be where most of those verdicts would come in? And you try to settle in that area on your graph. And of course, the defendants are going to say how they're trying to view it. They're trying to read the tea leaves. And you're trying to read the tea leaves and see where that probable verdict would come in.
So in the rare occasion, nobody really wants to go into court on either side.
That's right. That's why, 90-something% of all civil cases are settled.
Now, that's an interesting statistic.
Yeah.
But you still need the attorney on board, and you can't Don't try to do it yourself.
No,
Good
no.
Lord.
Well, of course, if you have insurance, then you're not going to be doing it because they're going to provide an attorney. That's what your insurance policy does. They provide an insurance defense for you, which is the big value for that.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I was surprised. One of my clients was being sued in construction over something, and we went in. I said, "You need to talk to your insurance agent, see if make sure this is covered." And so we went in there, and he looked at it, goes, "Oh yeah, I already saw they've already set aside X amount of dollars for this case.
Yeah.
Already, so don't worry about it." So my guys were just, they're going in there with sweat just, beading up on their foreheads, and they just got, it's like lifted the weight of the world off of them.
Exactly.
So.
Now, there's a couple of things we need to talk about. Just so we know that certainly you're going to need an attorney. Usually, it'll be a small case, kind of an employment case. Well, again, a perfect reason to have workers' compensation insurance. If the employee can't sue the employer for personally, they sue the system.
Right.
Then it's an administrative decision which will entitle them to damages if they're injured, that sort of thing. Good thing to have. Unemployment insurance.
Mandatory too.
Mandatory in most cases, but we talked about sometimes it's kind of iffy. Get
Right.
it. Unemployment insurance. A lot of times, when I was in-house corporate counsel, a lot of times we would fire somebody, and maybe they had cause to be fired, but we would say, and they would go down and apply for unemployment and would come back, and we would say, no, we're not going to fight the unemployment.
Right.
Because they need some money to get along with till they get another job, and a lot of times people will turn around and find a reason to sue their ex-employer because they need money,
Right.
and it's understandable. So there's that management. Management has to make these decisions. I say we, my boss told me what to do. Yeah, but and then again, you're going to when you get that threat of litigation, you're going to reduce access to the information about those files. Here's we haven't really talked about what you should do if the press asks you a question. If you're unfortunate enough to have some kind of publicly discussed situation,
Some environmental issue or some not
big
big frog
you've
in
been
small
sued
pond.
or you're
Yeah.
threatened to be sued, and here's somebody with a camera and a microphone asking, do not try your case in the newspaper or on the television. At the same time, you don't want to necessarily be. We're going to do a whole show actually coming up about handling public relations when things
We
go
are?
bad. Yeah, we are.
Why don't you ever tell me these things?
It just confuses you.
That's
but,
true.
Anyway, you want to keep you're not being rude to the press. You're not tossing them off the property, but you're not telling them anything either.
Right.
Except that you are aware that the lawsuit's been filed and you haven't had an opportunity to go over it thoroughly with your attorney, and your attorney's advised you not to make any statements to anybody about it because you're going to be potentially testifying in court. And
Don't talk to anybody about
and
it.
you're
Friends,
talking,
relatives.
but you're not saying anything. That's the point. You're very pleasant.
I was told I didn't like that all the time.
No. But there is an art to this, and you're
Right.
talking and you're being pleasant, and but you're really not saying anything that's going to come back to haunt you.
Plus, not talk to other people about it too.
No, exactly.
Just be very nondescript. Yeah, I have some issues, but
Well, it doesn't happen too often that the other side gets somebody where you've made a statement. But one of the rules of evidence is that things you tell your attorney are confidential. That means that attorney cannot testify to them, even if called to the stand.
right, kind of like the priest in the confessional.
Like your wife, husband and wife. Most states we're talking about, but the attorney-client privileges in all 50 states have the privilege to the same exceptions to that. Most states have penitent.
Yeah, I don't have that in my profession. That's in serious IRS. We have the attorney represent. I work for the attorney.
Right, exactly why. It can be called to repeat or be a client told you. And so that's true for business associates, other employees,
We
other.
might have allegiances other place.
Yes, you think you know, but sometimes you don't know, and sometimes you learn in a
Too late.
terrible way. But it's just good practice to not make statements, not to vent your frustration to people that could potentially have to be called to the stand. And a lot of times your bookkeeper is going to be called to the stand, depending on what the case is, of course. But,
Right.
but your business records custodian, the person who's in charge of filing and keeping those records, can be called to the stand.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't want to make a lot of statements that so-and-so, that, you don't know what's
Right.
going to come out. And so anyway, when being sued is not unlikely if you are in business.
This is true. We're a very litigation-happy society in a lot of ways.
Well, and if you're a mom and pop and you're really a small business, then it's probably rare. If you're, a little bit bigger than that, it's and you have a string of trucks or a string of stores or this, it's not uncommon. You're probably
Right.
going to be in some kind of litigation on a regular basis, be it unemployment, workers' comp, personal
Yeah,
injury.
And, and the more you do, the more likely you're going to be involved with something.
Oh,
How
yeah.
active you're out there.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you need to build into your business model and into your cash flow projections and stuff. You need to have a set aside, hopefully, either for increased insurance or a fund to help you defend yourself from
Exactly.
contingency.
Yeah, exactly. And as you grow your business, you're going to know you're going to be more aware of these costs and what it costs you, because that first time around it's going to hit you, and and then you're going to go, oh God, I never thought I'd have to spend $25,000 on an attorney for that, or
Right.
or whatever. And then the next time you're costing something out and to determine your price, you're going to say,
Yeah.
we might have to figure
The
that.
big corporations, they factor that into the price of the product.
Absolutely, they do.
Because they realize that at some point in time, there's an X amount. They have enough staff for that, but you can do it intuitively and say, okay, I'm going to price it out at this, but I should add, 3% or whatever your industry is, kind of put aside a little extra in that pricing so that you have money to do those sorts of things.
Exactly.
Never compete on price because it puts you at a disadvantage. We
Right.
talk about that a lot.
That's right. Yeah, and you'll know that, but you can't be the cheapest guy in the world, because a lot of these people have been in the business maybe a little longer than you, or are thinking about things like this and saying, gee, that's what I've got to have some money for that.
And in small towns, you'll also notice there are some people who tend to be in litigation a lot. And rule of thumb is don't do business with those people.
Exactly.
Because they are trigger happy in litigation. And
That's
they
right.
kind of make their living doing it because everybody caves in because they don't want to deal with the problems.
That's exactly right, Tom. And and there are certain employees like that. And they tend to,
And clients and
And
customers.
clients and customers,
If
yeah.
I had a client who's had a different tax preparer in the last 6 years, every year I go, I don't think so.
and that's certainly true for other attorneys. So anyway, that's all the time we have. We want to thank you again. We'll see you next time.